Buenas tardes, everyone. Welcome to the Culture Comforts Charla. I'm Antonio Tijerino with the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, and we are proud to partner with Moet Hennessy to close out Hispanic Heritage Month with today's Charla. It's a special one, and we've been having a very special month. The Hispanic Heritage Foundation, Friends of the Latino Museum, and other partners have created Culture Comforts as a campaign focused on providing comfort to the Latino community through music, food, and dance. Is there anything else? COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted Latinos, causing additional stress, worry, and uncertainty, in addition to health, financial, and other tragic factors of this pandemic era. The need for self-care in our community is absolutely critical. Research has found that music helps reduce or manage stress, cooking soothes stress, reduce negative thinking, and builds confidence, and dancing regularly can help to reduce feelings of anxiety, unless you're in your 50s and dancing with your 15-year-old daughter and her best friend on TikTok. That actually increased my anxiety. But we have been doing these charlas for years, and we gather our community to listen, speak, understand, and connect better through 5-minute presentations by our community as they share personal experiences, ideas, resources, and plans, as well as challenges and triumphs. Charlas help us better serve our community by giving us that guidance, information, and priorities and perspectives from our community for our community. That is why for today's Charla, we have a special lineup of Charla oradores and oradores from all over the country. And we thank you for your time, your ideas, your spirit, and of course, the comfort you're providing us. And a big thank you to Katie McGuigan and Moet Hennessy for supporting today's Charla. I will now turn it over to my colleague out of Los Angeles, Jessica Herrera, to take it from here. And congrats on the Lakers. Hopefully the Doyers will make an epic comeback so you can be home to 3 world champions. You, of course, would be the 3rd one because of who you are. Jessica.
Thank you so much, Antonio. And hello and welcome everyone who's joining today's Culture Comfort Charla. The Love Charlas are a platform to connect our community from all over the world, and therefore we strive to create a safe and open environment for our speakers and guests. As Antonio mentioned, during this charla, we will turn the mic over to up-and-coming and well-known musicians, DJ chefs, healthcare and fitness professionals, and others for a short, interactive, back-to-back 5-minute presentations on a variety of culturally tied, comforting activities centered around healing. To celebrate the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, we will have a toast with Moet Hennessy. I wish I had the bottle like Antonio did, but I will cheer virtually from home. And we will be concluding with a Q&A session, so please make sure to submit your questions in the Q&A window found at the bottom of your screen. We have a jam-packed agenda for today, so let's get started. Kicking us off, we will have Jacqueline Sanabria, a Moet Hennessy ambassador, who will be sharing with us her favorite recipes of a few favorite drinks. So please take it away, Jacqueline.
Hello, everyone, and welcome as we continue to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and all the amazing contributions that generations of Hispanic Americans have made to our American culture. My name is Jacqueline Sanabria, and I'm your Hennessy ambassador, and I am so privileged to be here with you guys today as we continue this discussion on how we find comfort through these challenging times. Now, I know that for me personally, I have spent this time really realizing how valuable time is and how valuable our families are. And it's just made it so apparent to me that I want to really spend as much time with them as I possibly can. Now, during this time, we have really spent this quality time just enjoying great foods that remind us of our childhoods, and of course, some amazing cocktails. Now, I'd love to share with you some of my favorite and show you exactly how I make them. All right, so let's dive into the first cocktail, one of my absolute favorites, especially for this time of year. My family and I enjoy this every year during the holiday season, and that's a Hennessy Horchata. So I'm actually gonna use a Hennessy Vsop privilege. You're gonna find that this is so incredibly balanced and harmonious, and on the palate, you're really gonna find some cinnamon, vanilla, cloves, so it pairs so incredibly well with horchata. So we're gonna mix this up. I'm gonna use a Boston shaker set. Make it very easy. And I'm gonna build my cocktail in the smaller tin. And I'm gonna use a jigger just to measure out the ingredients. This is really gonna ensure that we have the proper balance for our cocktail. And I always like to start with our mixer first before we dive into the incredible spirit that is Hennessy. And I'm gonna do 4 ounces of horchata. I chose Caruba, which is a rum-based horchata, and I'm gonna do 4 ounces. So this jigger, the larger side, measures out 2 full ounces. So I'm going to fill it up once and then go in a second time. So 2 more ounces for a total of 4. This is such a good drink. And then we're gonna go in with 1.5 ounces of our Hennessy Vsop Privilege. There we go, 1.5 ounces. And then for the third ingredient, we're gonna go in with some aromatic bitters. I'm gonna use Angostura. So this is gonna add that extra special touch, and I'm gonna do 2 dashes. And now we're going to take the smaller tin and we're gonna fill it up with some ice so we can shake it and have it nice and chilled. We'll take our larger tin, place it right over top of the smaller one. Make sure it's nice and secure so that when you start shaking it, it doesn't leak anywhere. You wanna make sure that that liquid that you just blended together is incredibly secure. Flip it over, and now we're gonna shake until it feels a little too cold in your hand to hold. That's when you know that it's ready. All right, perfect. You can start to see how it's frothing over a little bit. Now we'll pop that open. And before we start to strain, I like to take a rocks glass and fill it up with some fresh ice. All right, so I'm gonna take my strainer, Hawthorne strainer, place it over the top of the larger tin. Now we're gonna strain it right over our fresh ice. This is always such a winner during the holidays, or really anytime you wanna enjoy it. And there you have it, a Hennessy Horchata. Cheers. Listo para otro cóctel? I hope so, because I've got a good one for you guys. Next up is a Hennessy Vsop Privilege Jalapeno. So if you're someone that likes a little bit of spice and a hint more of a kick to your cocktail, then this one is made just for you. So again, I'm gonna move on to our Boston shaker set, because we're gonna wanna shake this cocktail to really incorporate all of these ingredients and give it a nice light and frothy texture. So again, using our smaller shaker tin to build our cocktail, I'm gonna pick up our jigger, and we're actually gonna start off with 3 ounces of pineapple juice. So I'll pour that into the larger side of my jigger, full 2 ounces, pour that into my smaller tin, and then 1 more ounce for a total of 3. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go in with 1.5 ounces of our Hennessy Vsop Privilege, of course, my absolute favorite blend, and pour that right in there. And then we're gonna move on to some jalapeno. Now again, if you like some spice, this is gonna be for you. Now I do recommend that if you want a milder jalapeno flavor, to remove the seeds and the rib from the center. But if you're like me and you like that extra kick, throw the whole thing right in there. I actually like to go in for 2. I like the spice. Now we're gonna fill up the smaller tin with some ice. And we'll take the larger tin, place it right over the top, make sure it's nice and secure, flip it over, and again, we're gonna shake it until it feels too cold to hold. All right, crack that open. We're gonna take our rocks glass and put some fresh ice in there. And then we're going to strain it right over the top of the ice. Look at that. Nice and frothy. Beautiful. And then we're gonna finish it off with a nice slice of piña. And then you have it, a delicious Hennessy Vsop Privilege Jalapeno. Enjoy. Listo para uno más? I hope so, because I've got one final cocktail for you guys. Because of course, when we're talking about Hispanic heritage and celebration, we can't forget about the classic and most iconic classic Margarita. And we're gonna make it with Volcán de mi Tierra Tequila Blanco, which is made of 100% agave. Of course, we wanna use the freshest of ingredients to really complement this incredible tequila. Now I'm gonna start off with some fresh lime juice because there's a huge difference between using bottled lime juice to using fresh. It's gonna add a vibrancy to it that you don't wanna miss out on. So I always recommend using fresh ingredients whenever possible. So I'm gonna squeeze some fresh lime, 1 full ounce. Do another half, that'll give me the full ounce. Then I'm gonna move on to 2 full ounces of Volcán de mi Tierra Tequila Blanco. Pour that right in there. And then we're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce of pure agave syrup. Add that hint of sweetness to really counterbalance the acidity of the lime. Pour that right in. Now we're gonna move on to some ice. Start shaking. All right, take your larger tin, place it right over the top of the small one, nice and secure. Shake it up till it feels too cold to hold. I love the aroma of some really good tequila. All right, crack that open. Now we're gonna take a rocks glass, fill it up with some fresh ice. You always wanna place some fresh ice. Take your hawthorn strainer, strain this incredible blend right over your fresh ice. Of course, if you'd like, you can rim the glass with some salt. I personally like to skip the salt, but if that's something that you enjoy, definitely feel free. And I'm gonna garnish it with a nice lime wheel. There you have it, classic, delicious margarita. Cheers. Sadly, you guys, my time with you has come to an end, but we couldn't close out this time without one final toast to celebrate the close of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'd like to toast to each and every one of you with Moet Chandon Imperial, my favorite champagne, and introduce you to Sandra Suarez that's gonna kick off the incredible Charla series. Thank you again to each one of you. This has been such an amazing time for me. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for sharing the recipes of your favorite drinks. I already know just by seeing the recipes that the horchata is going to be a hit for me. So salud to everyone for the end of the Hispanic Heritage Month, and looking forward to the continuation of today's Culture Comfort Charla. Up next, we have Sandra Suarez, as Jacqueline mentioned, Marketing Director at Moet Hennessy, who will be sharing a few of her remarks. Take it away, Sandra.
Buenas tardes. My name is Sandra Suarez. I work for Moet Hennessy as Hennessy's Experiential Director under the Consumer Engagement Team. As we continue to adjust to operating in the virtual world, it is also important to celebrate the people in our communities and moments that drive culture forward. And I am excited today to do so as we close out Hispanic Heritage Month on behalf of the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. My personal stories, as I was thinking about this, has so many facets of adjustment, but 3 of them stand out the most. First, it has been my personal journey. Having time to learn about who you are, reflecting on the things that make you strong, and making sure to use that power to stay positive during these uncertain times. Family and friends, for us Latinos, the bond and connections we have with them is so important. So learning how to continue to connect, even if it's not through hugs and coming together, has been a learning experience for me. Not being able to see or visit them has forced me to find other ways to keep in touch, like FaceTime or other types of technology, and when possible, care packages. I also drove down to Florida at the beginning of the pandemic and visited my mother just to see her face and to let her know that I am here for her. It's not always easy, but we have to take that pause and take a deep breath and go for a walk. Ask yourself if you have connected today with your heart and who you need to reach out to and check on them. For me, That is what drives me to stay positive and connected. It's not easy every day, but this discomfort is when you learn a bit more about who you are and what you need to do to make it better. Professionally, working for a brand such as Hennessy that is part of the melting pot of culture in the US has taught me to ensure we are always inclusive. Being aware of how the pandemic has changed our approach to market and ensuring we're still connecting with the Latino community. We have created an initiative called Unfinished Business, which supports small business owners, with proceeds benefiting the Hispanic Federation and 2 other organizations. We have pivoted all of our programming to go to social and also through virtual events. For example, we celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month with our ambassadors, Canelo and Maluma, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. We were offering sweepstakes to have a meet and greet with them, some virtual events, and also Spotify playlists. Lastly, these times have allowed tough conversations to surface, and working for a company that has allowed our voices to be heard has made me very proud to be part of this organization. I sit on the board of members of our newly founded Hispanic Latinx Employee Resource Group, where we are looking at building a strong community with not only our internal employees, but also learning and bringing in other organizations to help build this platform. And now I would like to celebrate with all of you today in making sure to stay positive and find platforms and resources such as this to allow you to have a voice and find support that you need. I would like to raise a glass with my favorite Hennessy cocktail, the Jalapeno, which is a nice balance of sweet and spicy, just like us Latinos. Salud.
Salud, Sandra, and thank you and Moet Hennessy for your continued support and for supporting today's Culture Comfort Charla. Up next, we have Jason Cerda and Rana Faduo, and they will be presenting on managing certified studios during COVID-19. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Jason Cerda.
I'm Rana Fadul, and we're the co-founders of Certified Studios.
Located right outside Washington, D.C. in the Alexandria metro area of Virginia. We have a dance studio that is a studio very unique to the area. We don't do recitals and we don't do any kind of showcases or anything like that. We're more of a drop-in training facility, and we offer over 25 different styles of dance that you can take. And especially now during COVID, I feel like it's a very big stress reliever for everyone who was cooped up for 4 or 5 months in their house. We offer so many different styles of dance that aren't very traditional to your typical studio. And as a Hispanic, being from Puerto Rico and being Dominican and Puerto Rican, and Rana being Lebanese, we have a lot of ethnicity in our families, and we feel like it was our job as co-founders of the studio and for this area to provide people with an outlet to be able to express themselves and exercise and just kind of release all the stress and all the anxiety that they've been building up over the last few months with everything going on with COVID-19. We have so many styles at the studio. As a Hispanic person, it was very important for me to offer, things that are important to my culture. So we have salsa classes, we have bachata classes, we have Latin fusion classes, which incorporates the urban side, reggaeton and stuff like that. So we have a lot of classes there that kind of, embody the whole Hispanic side of it. We offer belly dancing to also incorporate the Lebanese side of her heritage. And so I think it's very important to, embrace where you come from and embrace kind of where you're from and share it with people. Music is a very, 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 very powerful tool. And dance is kind of like its vessel to kind of express and bring it to life. And we feel that at Certified, we've done a great job of giving people a place where they can feel safe, where there's a judgment-free zone. You're not competing with anybody. It's more of a place so you come and release stress and meet new people in a safe environment. And it's just something that we are very proud of and that we can give back to our community and more than anything, just give back to the Hispanic community.
We opened our doors October 1st of 2018. So we are just, 1 or 2 weeks outside of our 2nd year anniversary. And when we opened our doors, our vision was that we would provide a judgment-free, competition-free area for people to come from all different backgrounds, religions, talents, ethnicities, sexualities. We wanted to offer a place where everyone felt safe to explore their bodies, their movement, learn how to dance, whether they were taking their first steps in a dance class or taking it to another level and really pushing themselves on an industry level. So when we were faced with the pandemic and having to close our doors, it was something that we never imagined would happen so soon after opening. And people would reach out to us and ask us, when we would be opening again and how they could stay in touch with us. Many of our students developed really close relationships with our instructors. Families were made at the studio, friends were founded, and to keep that energy was super important to us. So within 3 or 4 days of the Virginia governor's mandate, we were forced to kind of collaborate and figure out a way to keep our studio alive and to keep everything moving forward. One of the things that we live by, and it's really our studio motto, is good vibes save lives, and we only allow good vibes in our studio. So how are we going to take this to a virtual platform? So within 4 days, we set up an online platform. We got together in a socially distant, safe area with our instructors, and we filmed live online classes that we offered on demand, and also some live classes just to keep everyone tuned in and to keep everyone going. And we were so happy to see that our students were tuning in and they were sending us messages telling them that, certified was the best part of their day, and they're so happy to be in touch with us. We found that, tapping into music, into dance, into this community that we created was really the only way we were all going to get through the pandemic and the only way we were going to make it through on the other side. So we operated on a virtual platform for about 3 months before we were allowed to reopen. We did reopen at the end of June. And of course, we're practicing under socially distant guidelines, and at half capacity, but the doors are open, people are moving, people are dancing. We're so happy to have everybody back. I don't know if you want to add anything.
It's honestly a place that you have to just experience, not because we own it, but also just because it's anybody that will tell you, and they're like, the energy, and just to touch on what you said, the energy is always positive. It's a judgment-free place, so that's why purposely we don't do recitals and showcases, because we want it to be a place where there's no pressure for people to come in and be able to just dance, whether that's, whatever style you're taking that night that you want to take. But good vibes definitely good vibes save lives has been our motto since day one. And it's something that we're going to continue to push for forever, because it's something that I feel like people need to have more, especially nowadays with all the stuff going on in the world. Dance is one of those. Dance and music, I feel, go hand in hand, and is one of those things that we're fortunate enough to have a place where we can offer that kind of an escape for people to come during this time and just release stress and stuff. So if you guys are in the DC metro area, please come visit us. We're right off of Franconia Road in Alexandria, Virginia. And if you're not in the area, you can definitely take our online classes at Certified Studios Online, and hopefully we'll get to meet all of you in person. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jason and Rana.
Thank you.
For creating, and thank you for creating a judgment-free space and keeping our community moving, especially during these times. And we'll definitely need to add your address in the chat. I have a couple people asking where you're located, so please feel free to input your address and how people can communicate with you.
I'll go ahead and drop that information in.
Absolutely, and please follow us on Instagram. You can definitely see what Certified's all about at Certified Studios VA, which is our handle.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And joining us next, we have Ace Fusion. They are dancer, DJ, MC, world traveler, United States Marine Corps vet, and CEO, and will be sharing their personal experience. Please take it away, Ace Fusion.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much to the Hispanic Heritage Foundation for having me here to speak today. I'm really, really excited and happy to be here again. It caught me a little bit off guard because I was actually in Puerto Rico working on some projects. And so I'm happy to be here. But first things first, again, like they said, my name is Andrea Arenas Vasquez, also known as Ace Fusion. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And during this pandemic, it has been a really tough time, especially the first 4 months, because I actually myself contracted COVID-19, and I was actually hospitalized for about a week and a half. And I went through a lot of hardships during that time. But for me, as an artist, I'm a full-time dancer, and then I'm also going to school full-time. So during that time, I had to really put everything on hold. And what I did while during that time is I ensured that I got the support that I needed from my family and from the VA affairs. And all in all, once I recovered, what I started to do was, again, like many other instructors and amazing individuals have been doing, is online classes. Before I contracted COVID-19, I was actually giving free classes, donation-based, because for me it's very important that I provided a safe space for everybody to be able to just take classes and be able to, tune in on scheduled classes. So we were doing about two classes, one class a week, 2 classes a week, one in Spanish and one in English, and also providing interpreters for those individuals of hard of hearing. And for me, once I recovered from COVID-19, another platform that I created was the Fusion Podcast, which is pretty much a destination where I pretty much invite professionals of all aspects of life to be able to come and speak for 15 to 30 minutes. And then I provide a mix. That way we can heal people through conversation and music. So that's one of my platforms. And right now, my biggest project that I'm working on is to continue to provide episodes. That way people could tune in on Fusion Podcast. You can find it on Anchor, on all the platforms. You could also find Ace Fusion Entertainment LLC on YouTube. That's where you can find the conversation and the mix, because I know that Anchor had some issues with the music. So I remember the first episode that I posted, I couldn't post the whole music. So then what I started to do was have the conversation on Anchor, and then I provided the music and the conversation on YouTube, which was the easiest thing that I could do. But yes, everybody, please, anyone out there that knows someone that that's either had COVID or is going through it right now, I say the biggest thing is support them emotionally. Is like the biggest thing for me. What I did was I reached out to my resources. I'm still seeking therapy to be able to ensure that my mental and my emotional well-being is number one right now in my life. And of course, one of the main things that I've actually been working on is my breathing. My lungs are not the same anymore, and I got diagnosed with sleep apnea, which now it's one of the things that I have to pretty much continue to just get better with. I say take care of your health. I understand that we're going through this pandemic, but I don't think the COVID-19 is going anywhere anytime soon. I'm only saying this not to scare anybody, but just to let y'all know that let's continue to stay healthy. But at the same time, don't stop living your life, because again, I'm one of those cases that I actually contracted pneumonia, and I had COVID, and I was pretty close to death. So what I would like for y'all to know is, if you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing, following the CDC guidelines, again, with no judgment, just continue to do and provide safe spaces for people. Don't stop. Just make sure everybody's wearing a mask, wash hands, use hand sanitizer, and just stay safe. Because for me, I'm the type of individual now that I will not waste any moment, any second, and I will cherish my life every single day. And what I continue to do is go hiking. I'm still traveling as far as maintaining, distance from people that are immune, that have weak immune systems and all that. But what I do to keep my family safe is I get tested every time I come back from a hiking trip or, doing something outside of the state but I'm originally from New York City, but I'm currently right now, I'm living in the Virginia area, which more down towards Woodbridge. But again, thank you all so much. If you ever need anything or need to contact me, ask me questions, you can reach me at HFusionENT on Instagram. I also have a website that you can check out all of my next future events following the CDC guidelines on HFusionENT.com. And thank you so much, everybody. Super blessed to be here. And again, Jessica Herrera, thank you for the beautiful introduction. Everybody out there, stay safe. Let's continue to create this. And remember, mental health and mental health is most important. Mental, emotional, and then your physical being. Of course, please make sure that you keep everybody around you the same way, safe and happy. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. And we're happy to hear and see that you're doing well. And thank you so much for joining us. Our next speaker, we have Gabriela Gutierrez, a hip hop teaching artist who will be presenting on Doble Historia Hip Hop Baile.
Hello, everyone. So as Jessica said, my name is Gabriela Gutierrez. And before I get into a little bit of what I'm gonna speak that brings me comfort with dance, I just want everyone at home to take a very quick deep breath. So I'll go ahead and lead us with an inhale. Just inhale. Try to hold it in. And exhale. So yeah, for a little bit about myself. When I teach, I try to find moments to bring grounding to Latinos, to Hispanos, to people of different backgrounds through hip hop dance, through b-boy, and through house dance. I'm actually the founder of Mo Fundamentals, and it's an adoptee-led arts program focused on creating space to grieve, to heal, and to process for anyone that has been in foster care, whether official or unofficial. So for me, the pandemic, because I'm also an adopted person, I process my trauma as I'm helping others process their trauma through dance. And a lot of times what has been told to me from dance pioneers like Rennie Harris is when we think about, can we go to the first slide actually? And then next. Yeah, so when we think about hip hop dance, it is a positive release since the inception in the Bronx, New York. So shout out to people from New York. The dance and the history for myself gives me a spectrum of masculinity to explore, whether that's sadness, whether that's anger, whether it's anxiety with my family members getting COVID or my family being hospitalized. And I offer this to say that it's a tool that is under celebrated, that has so much potential in healing, especially now for the world. I teach all different age ranges. And yeah, next slide. And part of what I did since pandemic is kind of brainstorm how to provide my service more to foster youth, because even before pandemic, a lot of foster youth are their own safety net. So we don't have family members to count on in the same way. We don't have a stronger network connected to our families that many individuals would have. So for me, the youngest has been 2. Yeah. So for me, sorry, I like to be responsive in the chat. So for me, I actually took the time in pandemic to put together all the work that I've done, which has been an accumulation of 6 years of providing this service, this social service to foster youth across Southern California. And I've impacted over 4,000 individuals just with that healing in mind. And if you want to learn more about the program, you can search Mo Fundamentals, Mo ABC on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We can go to the next slide. Perfect. Oh, and then before I move on, it's also, this time is allowed for creativity to co-program and co-partner with Latinx organizations. That wasn't possible before. So I've been very fortunate to partner and offer virtual events to a lot of different people. And then the last part, community healing. There's this concept that I've been told that is where this doble historia comes into play, which is as we are going through this historic moment, if you're choosing to dance at home, if you're choosing to just put on some music and just explore whatever movement comes to you first, you are an embodied historian of this moment. And dance is also cyclical. So whatever you're doing now, whether it's the two-step, whether it's the bob in your head, whether it's the wop, all of that has a connection and trace to our indigenous ancestry and our African ancestry. So that is a point that I've learned in this culture that I just want to share with you all and hope that you carry this moving forward. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabriel. And you know, just going off with the advice you shared, encouraging everyone to dance and get moving and become embodied historians of this moment, right? So up next, we have Elaine E. Ramos Rodriguez, instructor in training, project manager, and marketing assistant, presenting on 5 minutes Super Zen.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy, and I hope that you can hear me. I'm so happy and I'm super grateful to be among so many amazing people right here and talking about this important aspect of our human experience right now, which is taking care of ourselves in these times. My name is Elaine. As Jessica said, I am currently doing my thesis in mindfulness studies in the mindfulness studies program at Lesley University in Boston, Massachusetts. And I work as a project manager and marketing assistant for Alma y Espíritu. And before I move into my presentation, I want to talk a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and in 2017, 1 month before Hurricane Maria, I moved to Boston to start my graduate studies. But since I moved, I struggled a lot with change and with having my family away and dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane. And now dealing with this global pandemic, while my family is far, has been triggering that feelings of uneasiness and anxiety and avoidance towards change. But however, I've been incredibly lucky to have some of the tools of mindfulness tools that I'm going to share with you to help me cope with this. So mindfulness, I like to allude to mindfulness as John Kabat-Zinn, researcher for mindfulness, defines it, and it's a moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness cultivated by paying attention in a specific way. And what I like about this definition is that it opens up the diversity of the concept of mindfulness, which is mostly an umbrella term for different practices and different forms of meditation and breathing techniques, and even one's own effort or conscious effort of doing things. And we've all have those moments where mindfulness comes almost automatically. You can think about the first time that you rode a bike and you were in the moment, right? And you have your full attention and your full awareness, and you were doing it, right? You were doing it. But somehow after the first time, you can just ride your bike, and it's nothing special about it. But what I want to tell you is that we can actually bring awareness, attention, and a sense of this beginner's mind, of this of this curiosity and friendliness towards the events that are happening in every aspect of our lives. And the feeling of doing things for the first time does not have to go away, because it can be it can be cultivated. So I invite you to decipher what it is that you like, and maybe something that you don't like cooking or doing the dishes, very mindfully, because you might be surprised by that. And just when, for example, when you're doing the dishes, just try to feel the water touching your hands, and how does it feel, the sponge in your hand, and how does the plate or anything feels in your hands. And it can be very, very surprising. So wherever you are, I invite you to sit, and I'm going to share with you one of my go-to practices with one of my go-to mindfulness practices, which is connecting with the breath, because the breath is always there for us. And I invite you to find a comfortable place. You can rest your hands on your thighs or together. You can start by closing your eyes, or if closing your eyes feels like it's too much, you can just stay a low gaze or soft gaze towards the floor. And try to release the tension in your body, in your shoulders maybe. And we're going to do 3 conscious breaths. Inhaling in. And exhaling out. Think about how your body feels right now after that conscious breath. And we're gonna do that 2 more times. Inhaling in and exhaling out all the tensions in the body. One final time. Inhaling in and exhaling out. And maybe try to think about an intention for the rest of the charla or for the rest of your day. Maybe you can bring the intention of being at peace, of learning something new, of being calm, of just being present. I invite you to open your eyes and be again with me and with all of us. And if it helps, I invite you to write the intention on the chat, just so maybe your mind goes to the planning mind, and you throughout the charla you feel like you have to go and do something. Maybe looking at the chat and see others' intentions will help you stay right here and learn from all the amazing people that we have. So I would like to close with saying that there's a lot of tools out there. I work with Alma y Espíritu. We are an organization that are trying to, led by all women Latinas. So we're trying to make meditation and mindfulness more accessible to everyone, especially the Latinx community. And I also invite you to go on with your intention of the day. And thank you for being with me and with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine, and thank you so much for sharing that breathing exercise. I feel at peace. So thank you so much for joining us. Up next, we have Edith Arias, a wellness practitioner who will be presenting on a meditation practice to connect back to yourself. Take it away, Edith.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing, Danielle. That was so inspiring and powerful. I am a wellness practitioner, meaning I share yoga, I share coaching, and I also do mindfulness and meditation in my therapy practice. And so especially during these times as a therapist, someone providing services and also working with so many clients, I found the practice to connect to self and to be able to connect to our roots have been really powerful. Personally, on a personal level, I upped my meditation practice times 10. I used to do it here and there, but I've now done it daily just to stay grounded and just to stay connected with like the craziness in the outside world. So I really want to share a meditation. I would like to guide everyone through a meditation that has been working for me. I really find comfort in the meditation, connecting back to your younger self and to either your ancestors or to your lineage. So if everyone will be comfortable. I know meditation sometimes is very uncomfortable, especially if you don't practice it. But I really like this because to me, it feels a little bit more like a prayer, or it feels like a moment of silence to connect with yourself. So I would like to share that with everyone. And it is like 3 minutes at most. So it's not long. It's not long. It doesn't take long, and you could do it at any time that you find the anxiety showing up, or just like a lot of emotion inside of you. So to get started, I'm gonna burn some sage, and imagine you're smelling it. And I would like everyone to just tune in wherever you're at, whether you're sitting or laying down. Become aware of your breath. Notice your body from head to toes. And perhaps do a big exhale. Inhaling all the way up to your heart, through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. And I want you to take a moment to maybe empty your mind. Any thoughts or feelings that are showing up for you. And release it, releasing any tension in your body, anything that doesn't belong to you. Begin to connect to a younger version of yourself, whether that's a child, a teenager, a young adult. And go to a place, whether it's alone or with an elder, and connect to what you're engaging in at this moment. Notice any sounds. Notice an activity that you may be doing. Any smells. Maybe somebody or something's happening around you. Any noise. Notice how your skin is feeling at this time. Are you engaging in any movement? How is your heart feeling at this time? What are some words that are coming to mind? Connect to what you're finding soothing. Connect to that joy, to that pleasure that shows up as a child, as a young adult, carefree, or in need of something. And perhaps next time things get difficult, or you find that you need to return to yourself, you could return to this moment, to this feeling, to this awareness. And little by little, perhaps you could bring more of that into your day-to-day life. If you had an elder or an ancestor, perhaps you could ask for guidance and support. Or perhaps you could bring those words of comfort to mind or to your heart. Sitting in this moment for a few seconds, taking in how your thoughts, emotions, and your heart is feeling at this moment right now. And gently exhale. coming back to this moment. So if everyone come back to this place, hopefully found a little bit of comfort through that practice.
Thank you so much, Edith. And thank you so much for sharing those meditation practices with us and keeping us calm and finding our inner peace. So thank you so much, Edith. Up next, we have Alexandra Santiago, a yoga instructor and trainer who will be presenting on achieving mental wellness through yoga times of crisis.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're located in this evening. Thank you again for having me. My name is Alex. I am from Puerto Rico. And in addition to my job as a trainer, I am a certified yoga instructor. And so I want to share here a couple things that has helped me through this time and what I've learned from it as well. So before we get into the details, I want to share another breathing exercise. The ones that we've heard are wonderful, and I stand by breathing exercise a lot. I think they are a magical, powerful tool. So I want to add one more into all the mix that we've shared so far. So if you find a comfortable position, you can either close your eyes or exhale all the stale air out from your lungs. We're gonna use the hand to control the breathing in your nose. It's called an alternate breathing. So with the thumb and the index finger, you will close one nostril and you're gonna inhale as much as possible. You're gonna switch your fingers and close the opposite nostril and exhale out. You inhale, switch your nostrils. You inhale through one side. Switch the nostrils and exhale through the opposite. I use this exercise, it's one of my favorites, and I use it quite a while when I feel that I'm getting nervous, that I'm getting anxious, and lately it can come for no reason or a specific reason, and lately I've been feeling with the state of our world, our planet, and society that this anxiety and nervousness comes more often than not, so I always like to take a moment and pause and remember my breathing, either the inhale, hold, exhale, or the alternate nostril breathing. It helps me to come back into the present moment and focus on my own breathing and come back to my present. I do think and believe strongly that there is something that it's way bigger than us. Whatever you want to name it, it can be God, it could be the universe, it could be energy, you name it. For me, I refer to it as the universe, and yoga is what I found that connects me to it. And it helps me to look forward to something. So I recently completed my teacher certification at the end of last year. And earlier this year, I was getting ready to audition to teach at a studio. And I remember that Sunday that I skipped on a class because I was too tired. And I wake up on Monday morning to find out all the studios were closed indefinitely, no idea when they were gonna reopen. And it just hit me. I was very confused. I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I decided that since I had all that information from my training so fresh in my head, that's what basically all that I had to help me adjust into the new times and transition. And I was practicing constantly on my own, doing my own practice. I took a few virtual classes, and there was still something missing. I needed that community component, the people connection, which is one of my main intentions as a yoga instructor, is to connect with other people and help them through their own journey and explore the boundaries of what their body can do. And their mind as well. So I gave a few classes to my friends, and I've seen some of them that join here, so thank you. I gave virtual classes to some friends. I gave one-on-one classes outside following CDC guidelines. I did some small group classes outside just so I could connect with them, and we were all struggling together. We knew that. We were very intentional about taking care of each other. And I felt a great relief in being able to guide them, and that they trusted me enough that I could guide them through a practice. And it was wonderful, because without the studio open and without practicing constantly with friends, it just, everything felt different. And even though I've been working from home since October 2019, way before the pandemic started, it just felt different because I couldn't go anywhere. And at that time, I was living at a smaller studio, and it was just a lot to take in, the fact that I had to be in those four walls all day. So I started to think, I had some up and downs, and I started to think, how can I use the training that I just been through? How can I implement yoga more into my daily life? I've been practicing for years, but now it's just, it feels different. So I decided to use the time to get into more deeply into yoga, to explore the boundaries of my own body in the comfort of my home, and challenge my mind to change how I was thinking about the situation. So I started adding props to my practice. I got blocks, I got the yoga wheel, which is one of my best additions so far. And I started to reconnect with the practice of challenging myself, not just doing yoga just to be present, but just to test my limit, to see what else I could do. And it helped me to face the ambiguity that we're living in and trust the process, live day by day, and enjoying even the smallest details. Because as we all know, yoga is a form of meditation in itself. So that mental focus that you need for the poses, for the flow, for the breathing, it's something that I took off of the mat and brought it with me on my day-to-day. Even when I'm walking my dog, I try to focus on my breathing, focus on enjoying everything that I have around me, because nothing is granted. And at this point, I think it's more clear, and like it's a closer reality than nothing. We cannot take anything for granted. And so I'm using yoga, the breathing techniques, the mindfulness as a way to go day by day. And the days that are bad, because we all have bad days, I use that to remember that this too will pass, and that everything is constantly moving, even ourselves. We have to move our energy around. And whenever I feel that I'm getting stuck, or that I don't know what I want to do, or if I should be doing something else, and I become impatient with myself and with my surroundings, I come back to that sense of the present, the breathing, and reminding myself that we're all in this together. It also has brought me a sense of fulfillment, and to be more patient with myself and with my surroundings too. So, and I hope that it does for you the same, wherever you are in your practice. If you have a practice, I'm available to chat or exchange ideas about yoga or your journey. I'm active as much as I can on Instagram, which is alexandra.delmar. Sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming for me, so I admit I take some breaks every now and then, but I'm very active as I can be in it. So you can connect with me there, we can chat, we can exchange ideas. And I'll be delighted to hear from you, how it has helped you, and if you need motivation or advice or tips and tricks, I'm here. So thank you, Jessica, and thank you everyone that organized this. Appreciate it. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, and thank you so much for sharing those breathing exercises, and just sharing what has helped you during these times. Up next, we have Eric Sanabria, VP of Revenue and Operations, and he will be presenting on letting go of fear and learning and leaning into creativity.
Hey everyone, thank you Jessica, and thank you to the Hispanic Heritage Foundation for the invitation. I'm an awardee of the Youth Awards from back in 2006, so if Tony's in there, what's up Tony? And oh, there he is. So right now I'm based out of Mexico City. I work for a company called Oyster Financial. It's a fintech company that's focused on providing digital financial access to small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I'll get into how I got here. The theme for me is letting go of fear and leaning into creativity. And so for me, creativity has been a core part of me and my identity. And I've always channeled music as that core way of kind of expanding and leaning and feeling free. But I wanted to kind of expand more than just like creativity as a means of being expressed through only music or the arts. And I'll share a story of how I ended up here, because I think it's a good example of how it got me out of being led by fear and being anxious and all of that. So a couple of years ago, about two years ago, I was dealing with had a lot of different. Was dealing with panic attacks, was very anxious, was overthinking, and I remember a quote that my friend passed me is like, "We think too much and feel too little," and so there was a moment where I hit a breaking point where I had a really good job. I was working at Google. I was there for about 5 years, and I was like, I need a break. And I think the thing that was holding me back was like, well, I'm first generation. My parents don't have anything. I wouldn't have anything to lean back on if I were to let go of this job. But even then, that was a construct, and I realized that I needed to get that mental space and really give myself the space to heal whatever it is that I was going through at that time. And in that moment, I kind of had a sync with one of my managers, and he's like, "So what do you want to do career development wise?" And I kind of just flat out says like, "I want to go to Mexico and work on music." And to my surprise, he kind of just said, "Awesome, go for it." And so I was like, all right, one, that fear of saying I was going to get rejected, laughed at, or ridiculed is that. And it was, again, my construct. And again, this thing continued to show up as these constructs that we put in our head that hold ourselves back. And so then spent a couple of months to prepare the journey, making sure that I was going to be leaving things in a good place. And I took a sabbatical away from work, and basically the intent was to travel Mexico and kind of lean into my creative side. And right upon I was about to take off on my flight to Mexico. Again, no plan, just I was going to land in Guadalajara and I was going to make my way down with my guitar and some recording gear. And thinking I'm going to make the best album ever. And my friend passed me a book, and I asked her, you just went through your own sabbatical, and what would you recommend? And so she sent me this book called The Artist's Way. And for those who haven't read it, 100% recommended. And so I read the first chapter, and it kind of like I bought into it, and kind of this whole idea of like we're all unblocked artists in whatever form that we consider ourselves as creators, and that as beings, as humans, we're meant to create, we're meant to play, we're meant to be free. But over the years we learn all these things all these things that kind of like tell us that no, we're not good enough. Oh, you have to be really good at something, and so then all these things keep us from embracing that inner creative child. And so through this book and through a lot of the writing exercises that I was doing, I started to lean into creativity, and I started realizing that creativity is not just music. Creativity is what you put out into the universe and how you want to perceive it. And so it's like we're really creators of our own reality. We can choose to see kind of like a bad situation and see it bad and be victims of that it's a bad thing, or we can totally switch it. And so then through the writing exercises, basically you're just writing every day. And then I just started to commit to that. And I started leaning into what my inner voice was saying. And sometimes it ended up becoming not making music as much, but more of like meeting people, opening myself to new experiences that I wouldn't have other. And then, and just listening to myself. And I felt this freeness that I never felt, this bliss that, I would just wake up and it was like, wow, thank you, creator, because for this magnificent day. And so I, kind of just opened myself up to just the magic of what being alive is. And so then I kind of felt this lightness, and through that lightness, I met amazing people and even fell in love while I was in Mexico. And there were so many things and so many things that kind of pointed me and anchored me back to Mexico. And by the end of it, I was like, something tells me that I'm not done here. And obviously I'd met someone, so I wanted to keep that going. And so then I kind of lead into it, and I was like, I'm going to come back to the US, but I'm going to somehow make my way back. I don't know how. And lo and behold, 2 days after landing, the Hispanic Heritage Foundation had a VC forum for Latinos in DC, and I volunteered. Emmanuel Pleites hosted it, and I was there. And then, to my surprise, he had a lot of different panelists that were investors in Latin America, and I kind of used it as an opportunity to meet investors, and it kind of just pitched myself. I'd been working in Silicon Valley for 10 years, just came back from this amazing experience, and I want to bring my skills and enthusiasm back to Mexico. And I met one of an investor that introduced me to the CEO of Oyster, and then in July we started talking, and it took a couple of months, but eventually it became something that I was able to create. This position of VP of Revenue Operations was something I totally invented, and it kind of was just like, I think this team needs this. And before the time before meeting with him, I kind of just envisioned, all right, and kind of just let go of that fear of like, well, you've never been a VP. Well, you know nothing about fintech. Well, you've never even been in Mexico. What do you know? And kind of just put those aside and kind of like envision what this role could be and what I could bring in and contribute. And to my surprise, again, when we had the meeting the day after, I said, it's like, okay, cool. So what do you see yourself doing? And I said, this VP of Revenue Operations at this salary. And I was like, all right, let's see. Worst thing that he can do is shoot it down. And he was like, yes, that makes sense. And I was like, okay. And then after that was in January. And then I resigned from Google in February, and kind of just took that. And then I landed here right in the middle of the pandemic, right before things started to close down. And I'd say that it's probably the best transition ever. I feel like, I would have been holed up in my apartment in San Francisco, but here I'm in Mexico. I'm with someone I love. We ended up moving in together. The company's continuing to grow. We announced the largest seed round raise for a startup in Latin America. And so things are going. And again, part of that, and obviously there are tough moments. There are, some days that are cloudy, but what I keep coming back to is that I can choose to look at what's around me, the chaos that's around me, as a negative, or we can reframe it as an opportunity. And so I'll leave you guys with a quote. I have this in my desk, and it kind of is what keeps me grounded sometimes. And it's, if you're reading this, no matter who you are, two things are true. One, you're going to die. Two, you haven't yet. The rest is up to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric, and continuing to be part of the Hispanic Heritage Foundation Familia and sharing your inspirational story. And it's true that that's a very impactful statement to close, and thank you for sharing that with us. We will now be moving to the Q&A session. Please make sure to submit your questions via the Q&A window for the opportunity for us to ask it live for the speakers who have joined us today. We have a question for Sandra. What cultural activities do you practice that provide comfort?
I can't undo my video, so I can log on to the video, Jessica.
No worries. We'll do that. We'll get it started on our end. But if you could please.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. So for me, really what I've done is, like I mentioned on my speech, just doing a lot of walks and try to disconnect from work, because now that we're in front of the computer all the time, we need to have that moment to really go out and just walk around, get some exercise, get the blood flowing. I live like 2 blocks from a park that's really beautiful, and it overlooks the water. So I walk out there and I just sit, and I've gone there when the sun is going down, and I do meditation. And I think for me, meditation is really key. And I think a lot of the speakers today talked about that, just reflecting on yourself and taking that time to take those deep breaths, which a lot of times we don't do that. So for me, it's been that, and really exercise. And like I mentioned, even just talking to family or friends over the phone or on Zoom is so important for me, because that also helps that disconnect, and that also helps that mental health, is to make sure that you have that opportunity to talk to everybody. And thank you everybody for sharing their stories here. It's so important for us to talk about these topics, and just being able to have a non-judgmental place to talk about it. It's amazing. So thanks so much.
No, thank you so much, Sandra. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And as I mentioned, this is the reason why we put the Love Charlas together, right? Especially in this time where we're all in isolation, right? And practicing social distancing. Like Antonio says, we're not alone, right? And so this is a way to stay connected and stay in community. So thank you. And thank you to all our speakers who have joined us today on behalf of the foundation. And I would like to thank all of you who have joined us and be part of the charla today. We have reached the end of today's charla. And again, special thank you to Moet Hennessy for supporting today's charla and toasting to the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. And although it is the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, let's continue to celebrate our heritage through the rest of the year. I welcome you to tune in to our annual Hispanic Heritage Awards that took place completely virtually this year. We celebrated our culture and accomplishment of our Latino community. And we honored Latino celebrities such as Bad Bunny, Jessica Alba, Sebastian Yatra, Linda Ronstadt, Jessica Gomez, and our farm workers. And we had special performances. So we will share the link in a follow-up email so you can all enjoy it from the comfort of your home. And before we conclude, we invite you all to join tomorrow's LGBTQ Heritage Month Charla taking place at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Please RSVP via the link being shared on the chat, and we'll also make sure to share it with you in the follow-up email. Thank you all. Saludos, abrazos. Hasta luego.